Well, g'day, I'm Grassybeans, and welcome back to episode 2 in my development of an alternative to the law for 7 days to die. Thank you for the continuation of your interest, and I'd also like to say thank you in anticipation of your cell sack at the end of the movie. I really like how it feels. Now to business. In the last episode, I said that according to my law, the character doesn't die, but they are regenerated, so a quick explanation of that before I get into other things. But first, this car carcass has got to go. Not only is it ugly, it's red, so it can't stay. This is good. Now I can concentrate. So to go back to that statement that I made before that whole red car debacle, your character doesn't die. They are teleported away from the area of danger before the body death occurs, and then they are regenerated in a safe place. So to sum up, what has just happened to Hickory is what is known as a bioreciprocal event, which means that the character has been removed from danger before body death has occurred. And that bioreciprocal event was brought about by a number of factors. Some I can touch on now, but others I'm going to have to deal with later, because it is a very in-depth quasi-scientific field, which of course I invented. And I'm going to say that phrase one more time because it's just such a cool phrase. The bioreciprocal event, love it, is a fail-safe action that involves the dematerialization and regeneration of the character away from danger and into a predetermined safe zone. And now to explain how that's happening, Hickory Diamond, along with every other survivor of the worldwide war and lunar annihilation incident, has been infused with what is known as systemic nanobioreciprocating intramural plasma, SNBRIP, systemic nanobioreciprocating intramural plasma. This plasma is what's responsible for the manifestation of the bioreciprocal event. A detailed explanation of that process will ensue in later chapters, but for now, the important thing to understand is that this one profound scientific advancement achieved what humanity has been pursuing for eons: virtual immortality. Now, I had to explain all of that so that you could understand what I'm going to explain next. Now, the title of this episode is Not Zombies? ? And what that means is, if they're not zombies, then what the cow truck are they? And of course, the simple answer to that is, they are the Scoggin. I mentioned that in the last episode as well, but now I'll touch on this subject a little deeper. Obviously, of course, the following explanation is going to involve what I've just been talking about, which of course is the systemic nanobioreciprocating intramural plasma. And I don't want to be saying that conglomeration over and over, because while you're sitting there listening to me, you're getting older and I'm getting grumpier. So I'll just shorten it to S-plasma. So, what does the S-plasma have to do with the Scoggin? That starts with a cruel and ironic twist of fate that occurred in Hickory's past, which is of course our future. That same S-plasma that gives Hickory virtual immortality is in fact the antecedent that causes the spawning of the Scoggin. Now, I don't know about you, but I've noticed that all the Scoggin, or zombies in your world, seem to be the same people over and over. Now, the game doesn't have an explanation for that, but I do, because my brain is big and fat. And what my big and fat brain says is that it do be like that sometimes. Seriously. Just going to speed things up here a little, because this is kind of tedious work. I'm Hickory now. You can tell from the distinct change in my voice that I'm now speaking as the character. I'm barricading myself into this domicile because although I can't see them at the moment, I know the Scoggin are out there doing some slippery lurking in the shadows and the darkness. It beguiles me. So much so that I think I'll meander in close proximity to a window somewhere, probably this one. And what did I just say? There is a Scoggin lurking slipperily if ever I've seen one, and I haven't, till now. Man, pincushion, this guy. One of the worst things about playing on console is the absolute blunderbussedness of the aiming. It just makes things so hard. Grunt of frustration. Yes, that is most excellent marksmanship, my young Padawan. On to other things now. There are still so many things to be exposed and construed. What will I talk about next? What was I talking about before? Ah yes, I remember. The S-plasma and the Scoggin. I think what I might do is just go through the S-plasma idiom word by word and explain what it's all about. That should help with the understanding of why it's so good for Hickory and why it's so bad for the Scoggin. And then I'll explain the Scoggin acronym as well. These explanations are going to be fairly rough and ready, but I'm hoping that after a few episodes you'll have enough pieces of information to be able to assemble a very distorted and fragmented picture that you won't be able to make any sense of. Oh my word, the Scoggin is onslaughting me. Oh, look at that. You just slithered right on over that, didn't you? What is this? Some sort of Harry Potter Slytherin mischief? Take that. God, I am just so rough and aggressive. Sorry you had to see that aggression. I let things get out of hand there a bit. Okay, so let's get on with the explanation of the S-plasma. The fact that it is a plasma would suggest that it is part of the blood system, but it is far more than just part of the blood system. I'll reserve that explanation for later. For now, it's part of the blood system. The first word in the idiom, systemic. It's systemic because the plasma pervades every system in the human body. The circulatory system, the digestive system, the endocrine system, the lymphatic system. You get my meaning. All the systems of the human body, which makes it systemic. The next word is nano. In specific terms, the word nano means 1/billionth, but in this instance, it's not 1/billionth. In this instance, nano refers to being subatomic. Now, if that's not an actual dictionary meaning, then I'm making it one now. I have that authority, because officially it do be like that sometimes. So says your mum. I'll get back to this explanation in just a moment. I just wanted to mention the fact that you may not have noticed I'm hot on the heels of a scattering wilderness deer. And now he's dead. Whose fault is that? Your mum? Bother. Now back to the explanation. The next word is bioreciprocating. Now obviously the bio part refers to the human body, the living organism. Now there is a part of the plasma that is computational, but that is a whole story in itself, and that's going to have to wait till another time. It's that computational part that facilitates the teleportation process that takes the character away from the danger. It's also that computational part that's responsible for the reciprocational part of the word. In this case, the reciprocation basically means the moving back and forth. So bioreciprocation refers to the organism moving back and forth. Intramural. The general definition of intramural means within the walls. But in this instance, intramural was redefined to have a specific scientific meaning, which in this case refers to the human soul. So in this instance, it means to be confined within the human soul. Because in any teleportation event, there are two parts. You not only have to teleport the human body, but you must also teleport the soul to go with. Otherwise you have a corpse at the other end. Or in these times, a Scoggin. You are either one or the other. So that's the S-plasma kind of wrapped up. There's a lot more to cover yet, but it's generally covered. Now I'll move on to the Scoggin acronym. But just be warned, It is my intention to seduce your inquisitiveness and then beguile the brains out of your curiosity. So let's get started. I think I'll just explain this one by giving you the words, because most of them you'll understand anyway. Scoggin, S-C-A-R-K-I-N. The first letter S, once again, is systemic. Because it's based on exactly the same thing, the S plasma, it's still systemic. The C, constitutional. Once again, referring to all parts of the body. The AR, arterial rupture. This refers to the blood being slowly expelled, not just from the arteries, but from everywhere. The KI, kinetogenic infection. Now, I call it an infection, but technically it's not. When you've watched a few more episodes and you understand a little bit more of the background story, you'll know why I call it an infection. But it is not, strictly speaking, an infection. But for now, let's just say it's an infection that allows the body to move. Kinetogenic, meaning movement. Necrosis, there's not much to say about that. Necrosis, dead. That's about it. So to sum up, it's an infection that isn't an infection that gives a dead body that isn't dead the ability to move. A bit like a zombie that isn't a zombie. It's a Scoggin. Because I said so. Don't make me bring your mum into this again. Good kill. I'll be doing a fair bit of that over time. These ambulance skarks are quite annoying, really. But they can be a lot of fun too. It's quite enjoyable to let loose with a good waddy walloping occasionally. And here we go again. God, some of them just don't know when to quit. I gotta get me a bigger hematoma hammer. That's Australian for big stick, by the way. You didn't know Hickory was Australian, did you? And I've gone off topic again. Let's see, where was I? Ah yes, one other thing I want to mention. It's just a point of interest, and that is that a lot of my story has its basis in fact. Some of the things I haven't actually covered yet, but when I do, you will be able to look them up and find that they are actual real events that my story is based on. Not all of it, just some of it. I'm not going to tell you which bits, because that's going to be the fun part for me, making you curious. One other important factor that I do have to cover yet is Hickory's background story. Because if you consider the characters that you have to choose from when you start a game, all appear to be around the same age, all have that weather-beaten look, and all got to the gaming world the same way. They appeared from nowhere. Ergo, they were teleported in. Now I don't know what that says to you, but to me that says that all of the gaming characters must have a very similar background story. Therefore, Hickory's story is every gaming character's story. So I will be going into Hickory's background in some detail. So let us begin. Hickory was born on the 23rd of May 2056. That date has some significance for me, but it won't mean a thing for you. That is post-war, 9 years post-war. The war was in 2047. Now I'm speaking in the past tense because I'm speaking from the point of view of where the gamers are coming from, which is beyond the year 2080. That part of the story will come into focus later on. It is completely separate from Hickory's story. Now, one of the things I mentioned earlier in this movie, the S plasma, it comes back into the story here at this point. Because from the viewpoint of this post-2080 epoch, every living human being on planet Earth, what's left of it, is augmented with the S plasma. Now, how and why that is going to have to wait till another time, because although it is part of Hickory's story, it's not the part that I'm talking about right now, so it'll wait. Time for some more sport. This is a Twitchy coming down the hill. Reminds me of a cousin I had. In fact, that might even be her. Yes, time to die, sweetie. No, not done yet. 'Cause done and dusted. Although I can't find them. Not a sausage. Never mind. Back to the story anyway. So Hickory is not the son nor the daughter of anyone in particular. As I said earlier, Hickory is merely a character, not the hero. That position is reserved for others. Being that Hickory was born in the year 2056, and that all the gaming characters are being drawn from an epoch post-2080, that makes Hickory and all the other gaming characters 24 years old plus. You may disagree with that, but then I would say they were all born post-war, and the post-war world is a very harsh, toxic place. Therefore, everyone who did survive the war, even though they are S-plasma enhanced, they have all suffered the premature aging effects of the toxic world they're living in. Time for a bit of fun. Steady now, take good aim. He ducked. Hiding's not gonna save you. Where are you? There he is, he sneaked up on me. Stupid skunk. You haven't got a chance. I'm so excellent at this game. Quite remarkably good, actually. Absolutely marvellous weapon handling skills. I am so dedicated to do... Oh, I give up. Time for an old-fashioned punch-up. Now that guy was doing some sort of a skunk dance. You saw it, don't deny it. And you loved it, because it was good. It was good. Alright, that's enough of that twaddle now. I'll get back to the official story. So I think I've covered the bare basics of Hickory and the collective of all the gaming characters. So I think now I'll talk a little bit about the world where they are coming from. And I also might include in that a brief explanation on how and why it is that these gamers are getting from the year 2080 back in time to the year 2050, which is, in my version of the lore, the game world setting. Because now we're talking time travel, and that is something that man still hasn't achieved, not even in this time in the future. That is until these incidences of random people just appearing in a post-apocalyptic world, along with the Scoggin. Because the Scoggin are not the result of the war. They have nothing to do with each other. The Scoggin are purely being created from something in the future. Just a side note here. Time travel is not something man set out to do. It only occurred as a byproduct of other experiments that were being conducted, with disastrous consequences. And at this stage, time travel is still beyond man's comprehension and understanding. Which means, sadly, that they can do nothing about what's happening, because this one disastrous time shift factor is a complete violation of all the known laws of physics. And that's a bit of a hint as to what's causing the Scoggin, but I'm not going to divulge too much at the moment. There's plenty more time for that later. Now this next phrase is a bit of a tongue twister. You should try it at home when I'm done. Several exceptional scientists survived the annihilation event on Earth. They went on to make some technological advances, the like of which mankind has never seen before. One of the great strides that they made in science was something they called temporal swing equipment. And it is this temporal swing equipment, coupled with another major event that I haven't even mentioned yet, but these two events coinciding. Well, would you look at that? There's a town in the distance. I should investigate that one day, which I will, but for now I'll get back to the story. I was talking about those two events. They didn't occur at the same time. They intercepted at one point in time, and it was the interception of those two events that caused a major time shift to occur. So it's this time shift factor that's responsible for throwing some very unfortunate people back to the past. Fortunately, not all of them end up as skunks. That's a story for another time, though. Time again to engage. Aim's a little better. Well, we've come to the end of this episode, so we'll leave Hickory there in a feeble, ongoing battle with the Scoggin bandits. And I'll see you in the next episode. It's been good. This is the end of episode 2. There is still so much more to come. You should join me again in the next episode. If you enjoyed my video, please do all the things. That is, Salsack, share and like, subscribe and comment. I love when people Salsack me.